here's the difficulty though. It's easy to think about how we can bring that strength and that diverse viewpoints and the diverse background into courses and into fields like sociology, like English, like women's and gender studies, right? Which are just three different fields that many of my cohort and my coworkers at Candle specialize in. The question really became, what does that look like to engage in strength in a science class? How are different viewpoints, how is different backgrounds, strengths in a STEM classroom? How do I engage as a science teacher? How do I engage in these strengths? How do I bring it forth? And basically as another way to help students succeed. And I thought about that for a lot. The solution really, or part of the pivot really came from another person in the cohort, Nicole, who is a statistician, and she taught this introductory statistics class, right? And one of the things she reported back to the entire cohort was her intervention when she had gotten access to a complete different data set, a data set on water quality, and essentially linking that with neighborhood income, with racial makeup, with school performance, et cetera, et cetera. And she taught in this introductory statistics class the exact same thing that you would teach every year in introductory statistics, right? How to make correlations, how to do t-tests, how to do different types of analysis. But what she found was that just shifting the data set, just introducing a different data set, what really increased engagement in the course. Students were coming up with more interesting questions. They were more engaged. They wanted to do more expansive analysis. They started questioning, why is it that the data set did not include certain things that they wanted to examine? And that was really meaningful to Nicole. And as she explained it to me, it really made me think about it, right? What was happening here? Why was this important? Why is it that students were engaging more when you just change the data set? And the answer is, I'm sure it's obvious to all of you, but it wasn't obvious to me back then because I wasn't thinking about it in this way. But really, when you come down to it, students, all our students, want to know that the work that they do, that they're doing is meaningful. They want to know that they have an impact on their communities, on their world, right? And science, as a field, science can definitely do that. We can, science and the science work can change the world we live in for the better, right? But that is also the strength of diverse students, right? That's also a strength of, that's also where the strength of diverse students come in. First generation students, BIPOC students, students who identify as coming from traditionally marginalized, especially academically marginalized communities. They come from different communities, they come from different worlds, and therefore the world that they want to influence, the world that they want to change is different. And science and scientific work can do that. Put it another way, right? In the right hands, science can be a tool for social justice. And we know this, right? That point is clear to us as we look at the work that we do in science, as we look at the work that's produced in science, right? When it comes to orphan disease, when we're talking about epidemiological studies, focus on specific communities, when you're thinking about, you know, impact of climate change, anything you think of, there are different fields in science where it's clear that science and the work that we do in science is a tool for social justice. But that point is so often lost in science class because especially introductory, especially early science classes, because when we talk about mitosis, when we talk about even in an ecology class, when we start to talk about the carbon cycle in deep detail, that idea of science as a tool of social justice, the idea that it can change the world, seems to be put away. And eventually it is brought back, and the upper levels is definitely brought back. But by that time, that retention problem has already reared its ugly head, that we have lost the students that we most want to keep in the field, the students who are interested in changing the world that we live in, right? So it's my what I try to do, and I think of it as engaging the strength of my students, is essentially to incorporate and to remind and to encourage them to learn how science is a tool for changing the world. Included in that, of course, is that science is also fundamentally has fundamental problems that makes it as historically, especially even in current day, makes it also a tool that can be used for further injustice, and to make sure that that lesson from day one is incorporated into these lessons. And I think of it as a really important part of retaining students and engaging students where they are at, and essentially that is inclusive pedagogy.